Sir.
Do we have any defense against China's hypersonic aircraft?
Do we have any protection against Chinese hypersonic aircraft? No. Sorry.
I knew the answer.
Okay.
I've got a question that's been really eating at me.
We have one gentleman in the back, and then, yes, sir.
So can you talk a bit about the cyber threat to critical infrastructure and what some of the most likely scenarios that you can envision?
Cyber threat to infrastructure. Major primary concern. The Soviet Union, our friend the Russians, part of their aggression against Ukraine was cyber warfare, blowing out their banking systems, their economy. When they went against Georgia, not to be confused with Atlanta, Georgia, which is a screwy place as well, but sorry, dear. She's an Atlanta girl, and the day I showed up at her place, and I was wearing a t-shirt, and it was Sherman's Barbecue Tour of the South, she almost broke up with me. But back to being very serious here. You asking me that question would be the equivalent of, I'm part of an evaluation team working for the Department of the Navy, and it's like, do you think the Japanese could really hit us with aircraft carrier base planes? Nah. Fleet doctrine is, aircraft carriers, this actually was the real doctrine for both sides. Carriers were supposed to be support ships to support the battleships. Its primary role, as was envisioned by the battleship admirals, was your carrier stayed back from the fighting line, the battleships were forward, and you launched your planes up to spot your opponent and then vector in the shell fall from 25 miles out and prevent his planes from getting over your battleships. So I'm asking some Navy administrator this question on December 1st, 1941. And no, that's against all doctrine. Carriers can be used against secondary targets or support, but putting 6 carriers together and hitting a place like the Philippines, well, what about Pearl Harbor? That's ridiculous. It can't be done. And let's make your day even worse. We haven't even talked about CME, coronal mass ejection, which, if hit by a major solar storm, major coronal mass ejection, it's not instant and it's over. It's sort of like the atmosphere will be like a bell ringing for a couple of days. You'll have, if the powers that be give us an honest warning saying turn everything off because we're really going to get clobbered by a major CME, you're going to have to stay powered off perhaps for days. And then it's a question of how do you know when you can turn back on? And a CME, that is a mathematical certainty. Look up Carrington event. It starts with a C, Carrington event. And when I wrote 1 second after, I didn't know about it. And the week after my book came out, a friend of mine called me and said, you got to read a book called The Sun Kings. That's S-U-N Kings. He's a helioastronomer historian. This book is about the history of studying the sun. And Carrington event is named after this Professor Carrington, who in 1859 photographed a major solar flare, and a day later the telegraphy systems in England and North America started to go haywire, and he correlated the two. He said this has got to be a solar storm, which started the study of the magnetosphere. So, yeah, major solar storm. I was in Iceland to see the eclipse March 20th a year ago, and I lucked out. A level 4, it was just almost a level 4 event while I was in Iceland. I got to see the coolest northern lights in a decade. Sorry, dear, she had to work because she was a CPA at the time. So I was there with my priest and a couple of friends, and we were eating rotting shark fin and drinking Icelandic vodka, watching the solar lights. But that's the one upside of a major CME. You're going to see the best northern lights of your life. Might be the last thing you're ever going to see, but it's quite a show. One more. Yes.
Back to your good friend Duke. Have you ever discussed with him
Yeah, Newton and I have talked about almost everything possible, and that's why I'm so darn frustrated he's not running for president.
What's his perspective on that?
We're vulnerable. We're very vulnerable. We're vulnerable on every single front. Big pardon? Oh, what the media presents? They have, isn't this where they have the county fair and they got bulls and sheep? And if you're getting my analogy, you got my analogies to what I think the media does. Yeah, I mean, politically, I tried to get a little bit involved last year, and only one candidate, Ben Carson, raised the issue of EMP. Only one. He mentioned it 4 times in one weekend, and then he was out. I've yet to hear another candidate mention it. Let me close with this, and it's slightly emotional for me. Those of you who might be from the Black Mountain, Swannanoa, Montreat area, we lost a remarkable man last week. His name is Andy Andrews. Why I'm mentioning him in closing is Andy will be buried at the Veterans Cemetery next week. Andy landed in Omaha with the Big Red One. He fought in 24 major ground engagements. He was a machine gunner. He was wounded in action 4 times. And I walked the beach with him, doing magazine articles for the 60th anniversary of D-Day. And we're walking down the beach, and we came to a stop, and Andy pointed up towards a bunker on the ridge, looking down on Omaha Beach. He said, "Yeah, this is where I came in." He says, "Our landing craft was coming in." He said, "The one to the left of me just disintegrated." He said, "All the way in, I kept praying, 'Dear Jesus, just let me get to the beach. I don't want to drown out here.'" He said, "Then I was in the surf and in the sand, and it was, 'Dear Jesus, just let me get off this beach.' And it was, 'Dear Jesus, just let me get up this hill.'" And if you've ever been to Omaha Beach, it's not a hill, it's almost a vertical cliff in places. And he went on to say, he said, "Bill, I prayed that way all the way to the Rhine. Every field, every town, every village. 'Dear Jesus, just let me get through this moment.'" And so we were standing there on Omaha Beach in 2003, and my friend said, "God gave me a gift of 60 years. I never thought I'd make it to my 21st birthday. And now I'm 80. I was given a gift of 60 years. Andy passed away last week at the age of 92. Jesus gave him 71 additional years. He taught me how much of the gift life is. And as we are concerned about what we're facing, don't forget to live each day. My friend was given a gift of 71 years he never expected. He lived every day to the fullest, and he changed the world. Changed my life. And the other thing we should never forget is he did that sacrifice for a reason. Yeah, he was a young GI thrown into a war he never created. But he would later say, even though I didn't think about it, he said, "I was there for my kids and my grandkids and everything else that were yet to be born." So we owe all of them that. We have to make sure that no matter what crisis we face, America will always survive. I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks a lot. Oh, if you actually are crazy enough to